Hello there, friends. Welcome to Casual Day with Miss M. I thought it could be fun to switch it up and basically show the dress code of COVID-19. But today I want to do a very quick little video that highlights some of the strategies that I talk about regularly with my teachers that I work with other speech therapists, on all these videos that I do. That help me in speech therapy when I'm working with children on anything. So anything from speech sounds to joint attention, play-based activities, pre-literacy kinds of things. All of these strategies are kind of ingrained in a lot of what we do as speech pathologists, but I think sometimes those little things get lost. So these are really great ways to kind of remember to do things that keep the fun going, that are repetitive, so that way skills are really sinking in to keep our students making progress on their goals. So the first one I'm going to go over is probably my favorite one and probably my most talked about. This is the OWL plus R strategy. I don't know if you can see that. So the O stands for observe, and when we're observing, this is when we're taking time to just watch what our child or what our client or what our student is doing. We are at the child's level, so remember you want to be face to face, always, especially, when you have our little preschoolers that maybe you're not going to be sitting at a therapy table with, you're going to be on the floor playing, you want to be at their level. And then you want to follow their lead. So in the observing process, you're watching them to see what they're going for. If you're doing an assessment and you have multiple toys out so that way you can start building that rapport, you just watch what they go for. Maybe they go for the elephant stuffed animal, maybe they go for the train, and then part of this observing too is letting the child know they're heard. So you're sitting back, you're with them, you're again face to face and engaged, and you're letting them know that however they decide to communicate to you, you're listening, you're going to hear them. So the W, because we have OWL, if I can spell today, the W stands for wait. Now I was just talking with another speech therapist about this waiting time that we like to do. It could be awkward. It could be really awkward. And I've talked about it before in other videos. If you watch my joint attention video, I try to do that awkward pause with you so you can really see how long it might be. Waiting, I say at least 5 seconds. So let's say you're working with a child and you prompt them and, you ask, I don't know, it's a yes or no question, right? Is your hair brown? Yes or no? You want to wait at least 5 seconds before giving them another prompt to respond to you. And when you're waiting, this is a great time for you to anticipate their response. Let them know with an animated look, be ready. Let them know it's their turn to respond to you. You want to give time, like I said, that 5 seconds, because you want to give them a chance to take a turn. It might take a little bit longer for them to read your cues, to process your information. So you want to give them that think time and time to respond. You also want to make sure you're waiting in a sense of giving time to explore and discover. So again, you have those toys out, you're watching what you're going to follow their lead with, whatever they choose. But then also, let's say they pick up the elephant toy. They need to touch and feel and look at it, I love this with Mr. Potato Head. If I bring out Mr. Potato Heads, I like giving them a chance to kind of look at all the pieces and explore what they are. Maybe even before I start vocalizing, giving them a chance to be independent, because maybe they find an ear on the floor that goes to Mr. Potato Head. They're not sure what it is. And if I don't wait enough and just say, oh yeah, that's an ear, that takes away maybe their opportunity to hold it up and look expectantly at me. So things like that waiting is so key. And like I said, it could be so awkward. All right, the owl in owl, you guys. The L in owl stands for listen. So turn your listening ears on, right? You follow, again, when you're following the child's lead, the child is talking and the adult attends to the child. It's not a one-way street of you leading, or you talking and the child attending to you. There's that listening aspect. because you want to have respect for the child's expression, however that may be, right? If it's verbal, if it's gestural, if it's just facial, if it's, if they're responding to the certain sensory needs because of the environment, anything, you're respectful of their expression. And you want to motivate them to continue the conversation. So that listening piece, again, I'm going to talk about this animated look, what we call an expectant look. You are motivating them to take that next turn. And when you feel heard, I mean, think about it just in life when you're in a conversation. When you feel heard and you're being truly listened to, don't you want to keep talking? Don't you want to keep sharing your perspective versus moving too fast on to the next thing or prompting too quickly to answer another question? If someone's prompting you too quickly, you maybe lose attention to what you wanted to say, or you're just not as motivated to say what you wanted to say and instead answer the person that's leading the conversation, or so to speak, right? So just think about it that way. It's kind of how I remember it, when we want to keep them motivated intrinsically. And then I always say owl plus R. So you'll see that if you look at this poster. R, it means to give a reason to communicate. And I love this because when you're doing something like that, it means that maybe you're changing up the activity. Maybe you're withholding so that way the child can request. So I love using this example, but it's just so appropriate to like everyday life. But like Cheerios or snacks that have multiple things, grapes, anything where maybe you can withhold to get them to reach their hand out, or to sign want or more. So those kinds of things that get them to communicate versus you just giving them everything. Or another good example is if you're in your speech room or the playroom at your house, if all the toys are at their level that they can just access, then that's not necessarily giving them the chance to request what they want or to initiate a play activity with somebody else because they can go grab something, right? So it's really good to make sure that things maybe are in sight, especially for that object permanence, when you want to make sure they know what's available to them, that it's there, that they can access it if they request it. But so maybe it's high up so they can't reach it, or maybe it's, in one of the things I use is a plastic jar so you could see through it, but it's closed and it's hard to take that twist top off of the jar. And so they can see it, but they have to request open, or more ball or whatever it is. And that kind of goes along with saying, you want to adapt daily routines. So again, withholding those Cheerios, putting things at different levels so that way they have the ability to request, are all really helpful things. All right, we're gonna get into my next poster here. These are the 4 I's. The 4 I's stand for include, interpret, imitate, and intrude. And I'll show you what it looks like if you were to go download this. It's a blue poster that I made. You can find these acronyms in lots of places too, not just thanksmorris.com. Okay, so when you're including the child's interests. Again, you're following their lead, and you're joining into their play. I'm not going to bring out Mr. Potato Head if a child's already playing with dinosaurs because I want to work on body parts. You can work on that by including their interest in dinosaurs, and maybe they have multiple goals, so you just work on something else that day, But always follow their lead. Set them up for success by including what they like, because what better to get them talking than something that they enjoy, or communicating, I should say, right? The next I stands for interpret. Okay, this one's huge. You want to interpret all communication attempts. And sometimes I know I have a tendency now, especially working with preschoolers, I sometimes probably over-interpret, or, I interpret wrong. And I think sometimes I'm afraid to interpret because I don't want to interpret wrong. Maybe I think they're trying to say they want, they're hungry, but I don't know. Maybe they have to go potty, and I don't want to get that one wrong. But you want to do your best, and this is why that OWL, that observe, wait, and listen, is so important, because then you get to know, their own communication styles. You're taking time to learn their world, so that way when you get to this interpreting part, it comes a little bit more naturally, and it takes time. It takes that rapport building, but you want to make sure that you're doing so, because especially when you have nonverbal children and individuals, it's really important to, again, let them know that they've been heard. So if you're interpreting their communication, they know you've been heard. And I always recast and say, oh, you want to eat? Oh, you want more ball? To let them know, oh, I get you. I get it, you know? This is why I like to use books a lot in therapy, because you have a foundation. So if you read a story, then not always, but there's a chance that whatever they try to communicate to you pertains to that context you just set up with a book. This works especially well. I love using books with my apraxic students, because it helps them be more successful when they're talking about the book, because I kind of have an idea of what they might be trying to communicate to me. Imitation, that's the third I. Now, this is they're all my favorite, but imitation is so much fun. You imitate by following the child's lead and imitate what the child is doing and saying. Now, here's the key with imitation. I get so many children coming in, fresh 3-year-olds in the preschool program, that have goals for imitating me or imitating peers. Building imitation relies on you using all these other things, following their lead, including what they like. It starts with you imitating them. That's the best way I can put this. So rather than saying, no, do this, you know, clap hands, do this, do whatever they're doing. Maybe they're just going like this. Then you make the same face. And then you get a mirror out and say, look, you drew it, I'm doing it. Maybe they're jumping up and down, so you better jump up and down. It doesn't matter, just start by imitating them. And this is what I always say, and I'll tell you a little story here, because when you start by imitating them, it becomes a game. So you're imitating them, then you can start throwing things in there. It works for actions, it works for vocalizations, it works for words. I had a little boy, we were starting on those, we were getting those first words just coming in. He was 3 at the time. And we were walking to my speech room together. Luckily, we had a little bit of a long walk to get to look at what was around us outside and talk about the weather. And so it was a lot of me narrating our actions. Oh, look, oh, the slide, you like to go down the slide and things like that. Well, when I picked him up on this particular day, he was extremely vocal and was repetitively going, I think he was going, ah, ah. And like we started walking in the first 5 seconds out the door to the speech room, he was doing that pretty repetitively. So I started imitating him and I went, ah, after every time he did it. And after about, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds to a minute of us just doing that, I started going, oh, to see if he would do it. And he didn't do it right away. It took me then repeating it, but he learned that I would imitate him. And then he started trying. I saw him kind of going, like figuring out where his mouth might go. So it's just things like that, where if you start doing what they're doing, they realize, oh, you're paying attention to me. And then you get that reciprocal interaction. And again, it doesn't always happen on the first try. You got to keep doing these things. And so that imitation, again, is really important when you're following their lead and starting with imitating them versus trying to get them just to imitate you. The fourth I is intrude. Okay, so remember that wait time, that awkward wait time? Well, intrude sometimes for me can feel a little bit awkward. I think I've gotten used to it now, but you know, sometimes children want to just be in solitary play. And so I know if I go push into a classroom to work with a specific child, or I bring them into the speech room, they might go straight to, you know, the train set that's on the carpet and turn their back to me and start playing when I was going to play that with them, right? And so you want to just, again, this is why getting face-to-face is so important, because once you're face-to-face, you can intrude. And there's some really creative ways that we can intrude. And I'm going to do a video on specifically creative stupidity one of these days. And if you've heard me say that already, kudos to you. I do say it a lot. I love using what I call creative stupidity. in my speech there. It just basically means doing things, putting things in places that don't belong. So I'll take the toys, like if they're in solitary play with, again, the train, I might take one of the train pieces and put it on my head and show them, you know, oh, where's the train piece? And that's weird because the train doesn't go on my head. And so they might try to take it off, you know, but already I've intruded and I've engaged a little bit with them. So you just kind of want to keep getting on their level, and when they turn their back to you, try and make a game out of it. Stay animated, stay fun, stay enthusiastic. All right, let's go on to rock. There's my rock poster. When we rock, we repeat, we give opportunities, that's the O, cues, and we keep the fun going, that's the K. So let's talk about repeat. It's pretty simple, right? You just want to repeat what you say or do. Now, for me, repeat means over multiple sessions. In one session, yes, you want to repeat what you say and do. Like I said, with that imitation task, I was repeating myself for a while. If you're doing like a 1, 2, 3, go activity with cars, you want to do 1, 2, 3, go multiple times, and you can adjust as you go. Maybe you leave out certain words of that repetitive phrase, that 1, 2, go, right? Or maybe you leave out go eventually, but you keep kind of seeing how much more you need to give for the child to start giving more, and then you start taking away and leaving those gaps in those repetitive phrases. That's why songs can be so great when you have like 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. What's the repetitive phrase in that? No more monkeys jumping on the bed. And that is so much fun for kiddos to do, that action, right? But that's like the most consistently repetitive phrase in that song, and you get at least, 5 trials of that, and you get to repeat it 5 times. And so things like that, where you can, and then you can start leaving those gaps as the song goes on. Now, like I said, I'll do this over multiple sessions. So I'll do 5 little monkeys on Monday. When I bring them back Wednesday, we're doing 5 little monkeys again. We're probably going to do it the following week too, and get all that repetition in. But I'll do it with those games, that 1, 2, 3, go, when we're playing with cars. You can do it with anything. You can do, if you're doing an open activity, let's say you're working on the core word open. I'll show you one day my knock knock box. It's called a knock knock box. We work on open repetitively. So there's objects in the box. We shake it up, and then we need to knock and open. We take something out. Maybe we talk about it. Maybe we play with it, and then it's time for a new one, and it's repetitive, and we keep going. Repetition, super important. All right, opportunity. So that's what the O stands for. You want to provide opportunities for the child to communicate. And this kind of goes along with giving a reason to communicate back in our OWL acronym. So when we give those opportunities, again, maybe if we're withholding things, that works, but also, again, remember how I said I leave things out of those repetitive phrases? So if I'm saying 1, 2, 3, there's your opportunity to say go, right? I won't say that last part, but I give them that blank, that opportunity to say it. The C stands for cues, and cues are provided to help the child take their turn. Again, I use my animated expressions, my expectant looks. 1, 2, 3, go. Maybe I do the sign. Maybe that 1, 2, 3 was a cue, but you want to be giving those cues. And the way you do that is first start by setting it up with you. Like, again, you wouldn't do 1, 2, 3 right off the bat. You would say 1, 2, 3, go. A couple of times, maybe 5 to 10 times even. And then you start just anticipating that go when you want them to do it. Another really great way, I love doing this on a swing. We don't have a swing in my preschool, but when I was back in my grad school clinician days, I would take the kids out to our little playground and we'd do this on the swing. So that way I would hold the swing, and when they wanted to go, I would look at them and I'd do 1, 2, 3, and maybe I would jiggle the swing, to let them know, okay, you gotta tell me go, or you gotta, do your sign, or whatever it is. I keep doing stop for go. Did you guys notice that? Go. Sorry. Okay. And then the K in rock stands for keep the fun going. Clearly, I have no problem with this. No, sometimes I get tired and my energy's gone, and this one is like huge. I'm like, no, keep it going, Miss M. But you want to be animated and you want to keep the routine going. And that's why I say doing things over multiple sessions is great because, you know, let's say we're singing Five Little Monkeys and then we're going to do the same story we did on Monday, and then we're going to do a play activity. Now we might want to, you obviously want to throw novel things in there because that's life, right? We can't always do the same thing every day, but it might still be a 1, 2, 3, go activity. It just might be something else. It might be with dinosaurs, it might be on the swing instead of cars, things like that. But you want to keep what's fun for them. And one of the ways you keep it fun is just with who you are. You just get in there, you get animated, you be enthusiastic, and trust me, guys, if you can be enthusiastic about anything, they'll love it. Maybe not the first day, but you got to keep that enthusiasm going, right? I love reminding people to be enthusiastic. I think that's the comedy improver in me. Everything's enthusiastic and it always makes it more fun and sometimes more funny. All right, our last one are the 4 S's, and this is another blue one if you want to go look for it. The 4 S's mean say less, slow down, stress what you say, and show. So say less, you want to use short, simple language. I always like to say, you know, you got to judge your client or your child or your student, right? Whatever they need is what you're going to offer. So for our little ones that we're trying to promote those first words, we might want to start with very functional language. So, you know, instead of saying red ball go, we're going to say we're going to say go, or maybe we'll put 2 together. We'll say ball go, right? We're not maybe going to be always saying, you know, you want to eat fish crackers, right? We might say eat crackers, want to eat or want to eat, and things like that, because you're getting that functional language down, that core vocabulary. If you haven't checked out Project Core, by the way, I believe it's projectcore.com, I think. They have some fabulous core boards that you can download for free on their website, which have all these core words that I like to highlight throughout the school year for my speech students. I highly recommend it because it works on finding what that short, simple language is and what's most functional. All right, the next S is slow. This is where I have a hard time. Maybe with you guys on the camera, you know, when I'm talking, I talk a little bit faster. I think I do okay with this in speech therapy, but you want to go slow. You want to emphasize important words. So if I am saying red ball go, or more red ball, I might say more red ball, red ball go, you know, things like that. Although I did say those a little fast, so maybe red ball go. That was better. And then you want to put stress on your language by speaking at a slower rate. And did you see how I kind of sometimes make those words more animated? You know, the words that I really want them to pick up on, the words that maybe we're repeating to learn, things like that. So you want to go slow, put stress on those key words, those core words, to facilitate that comprehension for the little ones. And then you want to show. You want to show what you're doing. You want to show them what to do by using objects. And I always say put your objects by your mouth. So if you want them to be looking at your mouth or your face, I always, you know, if we're playing with manipulatives or dinosaurs, I'll put the dinosaur by my mouth or the car by my mouth. 1, 2, 3, you know, go. And you want to use actions and gestures to improve their comprehension. So if I'm working on a stop and go activity, I'm always going to sign them, even if I'm not, you know, requiring that my students are signing them, but I want to give them multiple ways to comprehend what is going on. Clearly, I have no problem talking with my hands either. All right, friends, I hope this was informative and helpful. I did just want to kind of highlight those things and give you little examples because I know I talk about them a lot on these videos. So this is a good kind of place for you to go back and say, wait, what does she mean when she's saying rock? Because sometimes I can't even remember, so I keep my posters very handy. That's why they're on the iPad. All right, friends, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great casual day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye.